rain may complicate commutes and even cause coastal flooding this week. But after 2 months of unusually dry conditions, we need the water. And if the National Weather Service is right, we could be in for quite a bit of wet weather this winter. Here to provide us with some of the hard science behind it all is WGBH News science editor Heather Goldstone. Welcome, Heather.
Good to be here.
So I feel like no one has really talked about the drought around here. I've been noticing all my local rivers and ponds, the places where I play outdoor tennis and stuff. It's like nothing's left. How severe is it?
Well, August was dry. September actually qualified as moderate drought and was in fact the 6th driest September on record for Massachusetts. And yes, we've been seeing impacts. There was concern about wildfires earlier in the fall, but it's also important to keep in mind that it's 2 dry months. July was actually wetter than average, and put it in comparison to the kind of drought that the Southwest and the West has been seeing, and yeah, it's not even in the same ballpark.
So now what do those Almanac and NOAA people and all those people have to say about what the winter is going to bring us?
I believe the Almanac says a harsh winter. Not sure what they base that on, but no, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the National Weather Service, released their winter outlook a few days ago, and they're actually calling for a warmer and wetter than average winter. If you look at the prediction maps that they've put out, this is for precipitation, and you can see that it's not actually a very strong prediction. So that light blue band that encompasses eastern Massachusetts there is wetter than average, but the percentage of certainty associated with that is only about 33%. So if you think of it being like a 3-way election race, you don't have to get
over-under on that isn't too big.
You don't have to get the majority to win. You just have to get over 33%. So not a lot there. And if you take a look at the temperature predictions, a little bit stronger there, a little bit more than 40% certainty that we're going to have a warmer than average. But honestly, at this point, it's kind of anybody's guess as to what we're going to have. They're looking at it being fairly average.
Okay, so this time last year, were NOAA and all those people predicting all those the polar vortex that we experienced from Canada and just froze, well,
no, actually,
sections
last year's prediction kind of went south because of the polar vortex, that cold Arctic air that slipped down. And that's in part because the polar vortex and those the cycles that led to that happen on the scale of weeks, not months. They can't predict that months in advance. So that could happen again, but they're saying they don't see the conditions setting up for that to happen again. So hopefully that's not what we're in for this year. I mean, it's possible. It's still kind of an open question as to whether or not that's something that we'll see more frequently going forward with climate change, as to whether or not warming in the Arctic is responsible for that polar vortex effect. But it's still really an open question.
So, I mean, how accurate are these things? I mean, if that one didn't fly last year, why should we put our money behind this one this year?
It's really not something to put your money behind. It's not something to plan your whole winter around. The reason that they do it is to give municipal planners and that sort of thing something to base maybe their budget on for the winter. If they have a really strong prediction of a really snowy winter, you want to make sure that you have the snow plow and the salt budget there. And if they're predicting a lighter winter, maybe you can ease up some of the funding for that.
Of course, last year the warming deniers were all over the polar vortex, but if we get the warmest winter on record this year, what will that mean, and what will it mean to the ocean levels as well?
As you mentioned, we're on track at this point for 2014 to be the warmest year on record globally. So not just looking at this state by state or regional prediction of what winter weather is going to be like. September was the hottest September on record. May, June, August are also quite warm above average. So it's part of a continuing trend. And yes, there's variability within that, but we've definitely seen continuous warming. As for the ocean, as you mentioned, in fact, we've seen a couple of studies come out in the past week to say that we've been underestimating how quickly the ocean is warming, and the ocean is absorbing 90% of the extra heat.
We need to start shipping some of that water to Mars. Gotta figure some geoengineering here. All right, Heather Goldstone, always a pleasure to have you here. Thanks.